Hey, how you doing?
Better than Custer.
General Custer?
Yes, that's the one.
All right. So, is this like normal thing you have going here? Ask an atheist?
I don't
Like
know if
a
it's
recurring
normal.
thing?
Yeah,
Yeah. So, I got a question for you then. When did you become an atheist?
I was always an atheist.
So, like as a child you were, you know, consciously aware that you were an atheist?
Well, I didn't know the word, but I didn't believe in a God.
Yeah. That's interesting. I don't really never really had a conversation about religion with an atheist. So, like
Okay.
what
So,
are the type of things that, like, do you have like some like moral codes that you live by or anything?
my morality is based on empathy for other people.
Okay. Empathy. So that's like your number one thing is empathy.
As far as morality is concerned, yes.
Yeah. Okay. That's cool. So what about the afterlife? Do you believe in an afterlife?
Nope.
Okay. So what do you think happens when we die? You think it just goes black for us like forever, like our memory just gets erased, and like do you believe we have a soul?
No, no soul. I
Okay.
was not existing 100 years ago, and I won't exist 100 years from now. So
Okay.
I pretty much know what it's like.
Okay. What about so as an atheist, do you believe that spirituality is not a thing, or is it?
It's a thing. Is it legitimate? I doubt it.
Okay. It's interesting. So, have you ever had a moment that you might consider as spiritual, like out of the body spiritual?
No, I wouldn't go that far. I'm
Okay.
I'm a human being and I have emotions. Some people call that spiritual, but there's different definitions that people give it, so it's hard to actually understand what they're talking about.
Okay. I've had a spiritual experience. Well, more than one.
All right, define spiritual first, and then we can talk about that.
Okay. So, I believe it is related to emotion, but it's like, it feels like it's one step higher than emotions. I think it starts off as either fear or peace. I don't know if peace is considered an emotion, but fear is. And then depending on how, I handle it, that depends on which way my spirituality goes in that moment, if that makes sense. Like if I give into the fear, then I'm losing the spiritual battle. But if I try to overcome the fear, then I'm winning the spiritual battle. I hope that makes sense.
So spirituality is how you react to emotion.
One aspect of it, I believe. Yes, that's a probably a big aspect of it. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. We got a voice message if we want. Let's play that.
Sure.
As an atheist, what do you say how humanity started? Do you believe in Big Bang Theory, the creation, and how did Big Bang Theory started? As an atheist, what do you say about that?
As an atheist, I don't know because I'm not a scientist. All an atheist does is not believe in God. Now, if you want a good answer, you can ask a scientist. If you want to ask my understanding of it, I can give you my understanding of it, but I'm not a scientist, so I might not be accurate, nor would I be representing any other atheists. So, as an atheist, I don't know.
Question: do you believe in luck? Good luck or
Uh,
bad luck?
no, that's superstitious nonsense.
Okay, so let's say a random good thing happens to somebody or a random bad thing happens to somebody. Like, let's say
Yeah.
a good thing would be, let's say somebody invests in something that's new and they end up making a lot of money off it. That'd be a good thing. Now, let's say somebody randomly gets cancer, like they're 25 years old or whatever, or even a child gets leukemia or something. How would you try to explain that? Like, if you had to explain it to somebody, how would you explain it?
I would say if you look at that, that's a perfect example of how the world works as if there was no God.
Can you unpack that a little bit?
Sure,
I don't
because
really
people
understand.
not everybody, but most people I talk to who believe in a God claim that he's all loving and all good. Then when I ask them why there are people who have cancer and die of that, then they don't want to talk about God. Now they want to blame it on the devil or free
Oh,
will or things
you
like
know
that.
what? Okay, I'm glad you brought that up because I am a religious person and I actually have a different answer for that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I do believe God allows bad things to happen and good things to happen, and I believe that he allows both things, both bad and good things to happen as a test to see how people react. It's all full circle. When things happen to us, how do we react to it? You know, if I wake up tomorrow and I'm sick and I go to the doctor and the doctor says, "Look, you got stage 4 cancer." My
All right.
attitude reflects, you know, how I'm going to deal with it, and I believe that's a test.
Can I ask you something?
Yeah, please.
Does God know everything?
Yes.
Then why does he have to make tests if he knows the outcome of every test that he could ever do? What would he
Good
have to?
question. Great question. The answer is because we still have free will as human beings. He still gives us free will. He knows how we're going to respond to things, but we don't. Like, for example, I don't know how I would react in a gunfight or if my building caught on fire or if I get cancer because I've never been in that situation. But he knows. He puts us through those things. Then we react to it. Now we know how we react to those things.
Yeah, so who cares? As long as he knows, that's all that counts.
Well, that's where I would disagree because I think I think the more we know about ourselves, the better prepared we are to deal with life.
How is it possible to have free will if God knows everything you're going to do?
Well, because knowing and controlling are two different things. So he knows everything, but he doesn't control us. Like we're not his puppets or his robots.
I didn't say he controls you. He just knows what you're going to do. In
Right.
other words, you can't do anything different than what he knows you're going to do.
Exactly. Yeah, that's true.
So that's not free will, is it?
No, it is free will because like right now I could stand up and pick up my TV or my computer and I could throw it out the window. Or I
Yeah,
could go next door and
if you did that, there would be no other option because that's the only way you could do it. Since God knows you're going to do that.
right.
So
Right.
that's not
I mean,
free
I
will.
agree with you. I agree with you that the way that he has things planned out is the way it's going to go. But
That's
the
not free will.
disconnect, well, it feels like free will.
Feels like it, but it's not. You might think it is, but it's not.
Okay, well, I mean, then that's faith.
No, it's just ridiculous nonsense because if we have free will, then God can't know what we're going to do, which means he's not God.
Well, you call it ridiculous nonsense. We, Christians
Yeah.
and religious people call it faith.
Yeah, and faith is not a good way to find truth, is it?
It is.
It is?
Yep.
Really?
Yep.
Wow.
Let me give you a reason because if I have faith that doing the right thing, even during bad times, is what I should do, and then I do the right thing, and then I get good results somehow, then that founds the truth that doing the right thing can lead to good results.
That's a reasonable expectation based on evidence. That's not
Well,
faith.
well, we both, you and I, know that evidence does not always lead to the truth.
I never said that. I'm asking you what's the best way to get to the truth. And I don't
I would
see
say,
the best
I would
way.
say, like from a pragmatic standpoint, I would say experience. But let me
There
see.
you
We got
go.
another voice message.
To atheist, have you always been atheist? Um, or was there some kind of rejection of God that you became atheist? Why? And is there a chance that you will later believe in God?
Okay, good question. I can't prove there's no God, but I can't prove there is one. So the honest answer is I don't know, which makes me also agnostic. But since I don't believe, that makes me an atheist. And the burden of proof is always on the person who makes the claim. So if you're claiming there's a God, then you have that burden to prove it. And if you don't meet that burden, there's no rational reason for me to believe it. And that's why I'm still an atheist.
And the second part of the question, I like the second part of his question. I think that part of the question could be asked to an atheist or a religious person, is that he asked, do you think you will become a religious person in the future? And I think that's a great question.
I'm open-minded, and I will consider all evidence presented. So I'm still waiting for someone to present demonstrable evidence so that I can examine it and consider it. Because,
So
yeah, it's possible.
that's interesting that you use the word evidence in other people, because, and this is just my opinion, I don't think any person is going to be able to provide that evidence for you. I think, and like you said, I can't prove there's a God. So let's just, for the sake of this conversation, let me say, if there is a God, he's going to be the one to prove to you that he exists. It's not going to be like me or your mailman or somebody that can prove that.
Thank you for your honesty, because most Christians I talk to are believers, claim that I have to use faith. He will not show it to me.
Well, see, Christians need to understand that God works in mysterious ways. And sometimes Christians can be very closed-minded. I grew up as a Catholic. I was kind of like, I wasn't forced into it, but I was raised as a Catholic, and I'm not a Catholic now. I'm just a non-denominational Christian, and I kind of study on my own. I'm kind of like that standoffish Christian who doesn't really go to church or, follow the Catholic tradition. So I kind of have more of an open mind as a Christian, and I can't
Yeah.
prove to you right now. I can never prove to you that God exists.
No, that's honest. I appreciate that.
Yeah, and neither can I confidently say that if you have faith right now, God's going to show himself to you, because a Christian saying that to me, that doesn't make sense, because when I first had faith in God, like as an adult, and I chose to have faith in God, it's not like he came down through the ceiling and said, "Here I am." So if a Christian tells you, "Hey, have faith in God and he'll prove himself to you," that might be true. It might not be true. It might not happen for another 20 years. It might happen tomorrow. So I don't agree with that.
If I had faith in God, then he wouldn't have to prove himself, because I'd already believe it.
That's true. And that's a very good point. Because for me, I don't need to see him. I don't need to hear him. I know in the Bible, there's plenty of situations when the people writing the Bible claimed that God would actually come down and talk to them, and they could hear this big voice, this big loud voice, like it was some sort of intercom. And I've never experienced anything like that. No voices.
Okay, so how does the Bible relate to you at all, if at all?
How to live and what kind of attitude to take and what morals to have. There's a lot of morals in the Bible, especially with dealing with other people. I think that's the most important thing that we can do on this earth, whether we're an atheist or a Christian, is just deal with people in a good way. I could sit here and be an asshole to you because you're an atheist and I'm not, but then I would be a hypocrite as a Christian. I would be contradicting my own values. So for me, it's like, all right, let me love people, even if I don't agree with them. Let me not hurt people, let me avoid evil as much as possible, because we both know that there's a lot of evil things on this earth, you know, with all the things from terrorism to child trafficking to whatever else out there. So it relates to me by like, what kind of person do I want to be? And I can't really learn that in school or in college, or, you know, I think the Bible is a good book to teach me how to do that.
Interesting. Do you
Because
think
I wasn't raised that way, you know, in a sense.
you weren't raised with morality?
I was raised with morality, but I wasn't raised with like specific biblical instructions. Like my parents aren't Bible scholars, so you know it's not like they were teaching me the word. So it's like, all right, if you want to learn big words, you're not going to ask uneducated people. You're going to read the dictionary. So it's like for me, my parents weren't experts in the Bible, so I had to just read it myself.
Okay. Do you think slavery is immoral?
Yeah.
And have you read Exodus 21?
I read the entire Bible. Yes.
Okay. What do you think about it?
I think that the stories in the Bible are put there as lessons. And back to God giving us free will, he allowed powerful people to have slaves. Why did he do that? I have no idea. Why did God allow slavery from ancient times up until, you know, a few hundred years ago in America? I have no idea why slavery exists, but I don't think it's right, because people aren't other people's property. And, you know, we have to look at each other as equals, not as like ranking systems of, oh, you do this for me and, you know, I won't kill you right here.
Okay. Well, Exodus 21 is not a story. It's an instruction book on how to own slaves.
Yeah, it says, you know, how you should treat them. And if you give, you know, a woman in your house to one of your slaves and the slave wants to leave or whatever. Yeah, I'm familiar with certain things. I'm no expert on that, but.
And you say slavery is immoral, yet God let it happen. He doesn't consider it a sin. Nowhere in the Bible does it say thou shalt not own another human being as property. And for some reason, he doesn't like people to eat shellfish or wear clothes of different woven cloths. That's more important than slavery to him.
So
explain that one.
Here's the key to the Bible that I think a lot of people miss. Christians, atheists, whoever. Jesus Christ changed everything. When he was born, when he lived his 33 years, and when he died, his existence and his purpose changed everything. So yeah, in the Old Testament, there was a lot of violence. There was a lot of incest. There was a lot of men having multiple wives. There was a lot of slavery. But when Jesus came, it's like God setting an example, saying, look, I know you haven't had this before, an example, a living, breathing, walking example, but now here's your example on how to treat each other. And I think a lot of people kind of separate the Old Testament and the New Testament, and in a way you can, but at the same time, it's like Jesus kind of like wraps everything up and says, look, bad shit happened in the past, but Jesus is here now, and this is how we should live.
Where in the Old Testament does it say you shouldn't own slaves? In the new one, excuse me.
Well, that's a good question.
Actually, the New Testament says slaves obey your masters, even the mean ones.
Yeah.
So it doesn't really change, does it?
What doesn't change?
Slavery.
What about it?
You said Jesus changed everything. He didn't change slavery.
So Jesus changed how to treat people. The overall thing, like we don't need to get into specifics, you know. The Bible also doesn't say, you know, you shouldn't spit in somebody's face, but we both know that's wrong.
How do you know it's wrong if it's not in the Bible?
Certain things, I guess, instinct.
So you kind of get your morality from the same place I do.
In a sense, absolutely, because the Bible can teach us certain things, but not everything, right? Like, for example, there was no internet in the Bible, so it doesn't say don't hack your neighbor, don't hack your neighbor's Wi-Fi, but we both know that's wrong. It's stealing. So certain things in the Bible can't, apply to the year 2020 or 1990, but we have to just use our instinct.
Right. What good is the book if you're just going to use your instinct?
Well, I mean, it's kind of like a foundation. It's not everything. It's a foundation.
So slavery is a foundation.
I didn't say slavery is a foundation. I said the Bible
is
the foundation.
It's in the Bible and it's condoned.
So what about all the other stuff in the Bible that you're only focusing on slavery? There's a lot more stuff in the Bible than slavery.
Okay, let's talk about rape.
All right. Well, wait, hold on. How come we only have to talk about the bad things in the Bible? I just mentioned Jesus Christ, and you didn't mention one time how he died.
You said morality comes from the Bible, so I'm trying to show you that it doesn't. You actually are more moral than the Bible is.
Well, I disagree with that.
I don't. You just proved it. You say slavery is not moral. The Bible says it is.
Well, I could be wrong.
Yeah, I'm saying you're not wrong based on empathy for other people.
Okay, so empathy. Empathy is a good trait, right?
Yes, it is.
All right, then. Then that's what I believe in.
Well, then you don't even need that book.
I do.
For what?
For information that I don't have, for the instincts that I don't have.
I think you're pretty well off without it.
I don't feel that way. I feel like I have a lot of improvement, and I know I'm not perfect, and I know that I'm wrong a lot.
So am I. Same exact thing, but I don't use the book.
We got another voice message.
I think for me, talking about that's a big issue. That's not something I could just ignore, the slavery and the rape. I can't read the Bible and be like, oh, these good things in here. This was nice, love thy neighbor. It's nice. You should love yourself. And things of that nature. It's almost like me driving down the street and trying to ignore the big ass pothole that's coming up. Yeah, but the rest of the road's paved, but yeah, I can't just gloss over that, but no, real talk. Hey, how's it going, you two? But what do you think about that? Like, as far as ignoring that? So I think those speak a lot to accepting that, the book.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just want to make it clear that I don't want to ignore the bad things. However, I don't want to ignore the good things either. So I think that in life, balance is one of the most important things we can have in everything. So if we're going to talk about the bad things in the Bible, all I'm saying is we should also talk about the good things and balance it out, because it's not like the Bible is just all bad stories.
Not all, but bad enough.
I mean, yeah, there's a lot of bad stuff in the Bible, but there's also a lot of good stuff.
All right. I have a question now.
Yes.
If the Bible was never written down, right, and never printed, God still exists.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
So you can believe in a God without the Bible.
Well, I mean, that depends, because how am I going to learn about it if it's not in a book? I mean, someone could tell me about it. So yeah, I guess I could learn about God without the Bible, but somebody would have to tell me, because there's only like 3 ways to learn about things, right? You either read it, someone tells you, or you witness it yourself. I don't really know. I mean, I guess you could dream about something, or, have a vision of something, and that could be some sort of lesson. But then dreams and visions, we can't always tell if those are true or false.
Good point.
So yeah, the Bible could not exist. And then, if somebody would just tell me, like, all right, perfect example. There's still people in this world today that can't read. They've never been taught how to read. So they can't read the Bible, but I'm sure they go to church and listen to people speak about it. So they still understand, a good amount of what's in the Bible by verbal lessons.
Do you think churches actually read Exodus 21 in a sermon?
Say what?
Do you think churches, like ministers or priests or pastors, do you think they actually read Exodus 21 to their people like as a sermon.
And you're referring to the slavery part?
Yes, sir.
I have never heard it in church. And like I said, I don't go to church very often, but I think what you're trying to get at is, do pastors and preachers and religious figures, do they talk about all the things they should? Is that what you're trying to ask?
Well, if they're going to preach the Bible, why just cherry pick the good stuff?
No, I totally understand. And I think the short answer is no. They don't talk about everything they should. And that's kind of part of the reason why I don't go to church.
So the people who don't read the Bible or can't read are spoon-fed only the good stuff.
Absolutely.
Isn't that a little biased?
Absolutely.
Well, that's not a good reason to believe if you're not being told the truth.
It's not a good reason. We got another voice message here.
When men were writing the Bible, how do you think God was speaking to them? Do you think it was something like in the sky and a voice coming down? Was it in their conscious? Humans, or as we are humans, we have flaws and things of that nature. How do you think the communication took place?
That is a great question that I don't know the answer to. If I would speculate, here's what I think. I just thought of this now. I could be totally wrong, but it's the year 2020 and our lives are completely filled with distractions. We have cell phones, TVs, laptops. You know, we can travel in an airplane to another continent in the same day. So I think our minds are so filled with information, so much complex information, that we might miss certain signs from God. Now, 2,000 years ago, life was so simple. You woke up, you got dressed, if you did that, and you worked your land. That's it. You know, you didn't really travel anywhere unless you walked or rode a donkey or something. So I think if God was going to speak to you 2,000 years ago, you would definitely hear it. You would notice something is out of the ordinary or whatever. But now I think our minds are too cluttered to get that. Could be my opinion. Could be wrong.
God's almighty, so why wouldn't he just take control over all our electronics and communicate through those if it's so important?
My personal answer is that he doesn't want us to be robots. You know, he still wants us to make our own decisions.
Based on what? If we don't have information?
Based on faith.
Yeah, why would you use faith for truth? I still don't get that.
So I think I can answer that question because recently I've been exposed to something, a pretty serious story that I heard about. And I think the answer is, I think Christians or any religious person are afraid that when they die, they're going to go to hell and spend eternity in a sea of fire or, you know, being tortured or something. So I think religious people are afraid that when they die, if they don't live a good life, they're going to end up in hell. So, you know what, let's just live by faith. Let's do the right thing while we're on earth. And maybe we'll get judged as good people and go to heaven when we die and live in paradise.
Doesn't sound like faith to me. It sounds like fear.
Yeah, it certainly is. And
that's not free will. If someone took a gun to your head and you were afraid of the bullet, so you would believe because of the bullet, it's just as bad as believing because of the hell. You're being coerced with fear.
Yeah, you could look at it that way. You could look at it that way. I mean, that makes sense. What you just said makes sense.
You know something? Are you trolling me because you're agreeing with everything I say?
I did not agree with everything you say.
Yeah, I mean, you really haven't disagreed with.
See, I disagree with that already. I didn't agree with everything.
Okay, what did you disagree with? Maybe I missed it.
I might forget now.
Yeah. I mean, seriously, every time I make a point, you agree with it, which is amazingly surprises the hell out of me, because all those points I make with Christians and Muslims even, they always deny it. You agree with it, and yet you still believe.
Well, I specifically remember telling you that I disagree with something, but I don't remember what it was now.
Okay, well, when you remember it, let me know, because so far, as far as I remember, you agreed with at least 90% of what I said.
Hey, well, you know what? You seem like an intelligent, logical person. So, yeah. We got another voice message.
So, like, example for me, when I was raised in the church, Christian, Baptist Christian, and I remember thinking, okay, God speaks to you through your conscience. So, like, one particular time, I'm walking home from school, I'm 10 years old, and I'm thinking God's talking to me. And then another time, I remember being older, I was like 14, 15-ish. I remember thinking the same thing, and like God speaking to me or like telling me something. I remember thinking, like, I notice as my language and vocabulary improves, so does God's ability to speak to me. That was one of the first times I thought, like, am I just doing this? Is this just me speaking to me? Or is God just waiting for me to advance and he gives me what I can understand type of thing? But that was the first time ever thinking, like, wait a minute.
Yeah, that is interesting. And also kind of impressive that you remember that from when you were a child, because my childhood is like a blur.
Interesting.
And maybe
Why
to
is that?
elaborate on that a little bit, I think God understands us so well that he's going to speak to us in whatever language we can understand him.
So why didn't he write the Bible in every possible language?
Well, God didn't write the Bible.
Well, that's good point. So why? So is it really the word of God, or is it just the word of men?
Well, that's a good question. I mean, as far as I know, the Bible was written by many different sources and it was put together, and now it's like we don't get updates. So I know that's a thing that people have a problem with. I know I'm a huge Tupac Shakur fan, and he did a lot of interviews, and one of them was about the Bible. And he said, you know, if the Bible is supposed to apply to life, how come there aren't any revised copies? How come we just got this one original copy? And that's a great question, but I can't answer that.
Okay. I really appreciate your honesty, because seriously, you've been like super honest with all your answers. And I appreciate that, because most people don't use critical thinking or logic, and you actually are.
Yeah, well, thank you. Thank you. And as an atheist yourself, you are definitely more open-minded and reasonable than I would have expected. So you yeah, prove me wrong, which I'm glad about that.
Okay. I still don't understand this whole like communicating with a God thing.
Yeah. And neither do I, to be honest. It's, to me, I don't know. Like, I think his name's Rico. Like he was saying, like, I don't know when God is talking to me and when he's not. It's hard to tell sometimes. I mean, I think we all have this like instinctive conscience that tells us like when we're doing something wrong. I mean, I at least hope most people have that. So I think that biologically we were created to like feel when we're doing something wrong or when we're doing something right. Hopefully, if we don't know when God is talking to us, that will be our guide, that instinct.
Okay. You use the word created.
Yeah.
What makes you think we were created by a God?
We are such advanced creatures. I mean, look how intelligent we are. I mean, right now, we're complete strangers and we're talking on these little pieces of metal or whatever. I'm using my phone. So it's just like we are so smart. And then the way our bodies are designed, you know, to heal, like we're self-healing. And we have these emotions, these really complex emotions. I mean, like we're not some basic creatures. We're really complex. And I don't think that nature itself is complicated. You know, I don't think we're just like an accident.
Neither do I.
Yeah, I think that we're here for a reason. I mean, we have to be. The way that we're evolving to adapt to different things it's so impressive. And if you look back at history, you know, when people were cavemen and now we have nuclear weapons and drones. It's unbelievable what we've accomplished as a human race. And I'm not saying that drones are good or bad. I'm just saying that they're very advanced.
You mentioned evolving. Do you believe in evolution?
As in like from the beginning of time, like from monkeys?
No.
What do you mean then? Just evolving like to adapt to our environment?
Change over time.
Yeah, I do believe we evolve. Slowly, very slowly.
Wow.
I mean, I think a good way to look at it, like I live in a place where there's all 4 seasons, and like when it's like 30 degrees, like I don't know if I can handle it. I get really cold. I want to go inside. But imagine like 1,000 years ago when they didn't have like indoor heat. Like they were just chilling in 30-degree weather, probably not even bothered by it. So I think that our bodies adapt to how we live. And I think that we've got a little soft as a human race because of all the things that we have to comfort us.
Okay.
Yeah. What do you think about evolution?
Well, it's a proven fact. It has overwhelming evidence to prove it. So,
yeah. I don't know anything about the evidence. I'm just speculating.
why don't you learn anything about it?
I don't know. I was never really into science. So that's probably the answer, but
Well,
I don't know.
That could be a problem.
Where would I even look?
Well, it depends on what subject.
Evolution, the human body, how it evolved over time from 2,000 years ago or 5,000
You ever
years
been
ago.
to a museum of natural history?
That's a good place to start.
Yeah, they have lots of evidence there.
So do you do that?
Yeah, all the time.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So do you have close relatives or very close friends that are like or diehard religious people?
Oh, yeah. I have a sister who's born again Christian.
Okay. How long ago did she convert?
Oh, God. She was brought up Catholic, and it must have been at least 20 or 30 years ago when she converted to born again, whatever that is.
Yeah. I think when people say born again, I think they mean spiritually, because obviously your body doesn't really change.
Yeah. But, okay.
Did you notice whenever she converted, like, did you notice that her life changed at all?
Oh, yeah.
What do you think, it's overall good or overall bad?
Well, I can't have a meal with her without her praying over it first.
That's an interesting thing you brought up, because I used to do the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
For about 10 years. I would do that since 2010 until now. And then as I've read the Bible, as I learn more, Jesus told us to actually pray in private by ourselves. So I don't really pray in front of people anymore.
Good for you.
Yeah, to me, I always felt like even when I was praying in front of people, all my mind was focusing on was them looking at me, and I couldn't really focus on the prayer.
Okay. See, as an atheist, I get exposed to this all the time. And then, of course, I have pressure to join in. And if I don't, I'm the bad guy. I'm the devil worshiper.
That's a good thing you mentioned that. Is that true? Do you worship the devil or no?
No, I don't even believe in one. So.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's a good point. Yeah. So if you don't believe in a God, how could you believe in the devil? Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. But
so
that's why I wrote a book about atheism, because people have misconceptions about it and don't understand what it is, because most people learn about it in the church and they teach them all the wrong things about it. They say we're devil worshippers, we can't have morals, we eat babies. It's sad, though, because when I meet people and tell them I'm an atheist, they look at me like I'm some kind of monster. And some of them actually run away. Don't want anything to do with me.
Do you know if those people are religious, like Christians?
Yeah.
So, look, I'm not judging anyone. I just know that as a Christian, it's kind of like our responsibility to love everybody. So, you know,
Mhm.
when I saw your name on here and I saw atheist and I saw Asking Atheist, I said, look, this is going to be like, you know, a good thing for me and hopefully a good thing for him. Like, I'm not going to avoid people without even knowing them first. And
Well,
obviously,
I've lost
people,
lots of friends, and I've lost a lot of things because I came out and told people I was an atheist. And I thought this
when,
was a country where you can believe what you wanted, because that's what they tell
absolutely.
me.
Yeah, I mean that's the framework of this country. But when people are in their houses or whatever, they can still act however they want.
Of course,
Yeah,
I'm not the thought police. I don't care what they, you know. The thing is, when they start voting and making laws and pushing things on me based on their worldview, then I have a problem with it.
so when, well, can you give me an example of that? Of maybe politics or somebody pushing something onto you?
Well, I live in New York, and I can't buy alcohol on Sunday morning because of a law that the
Okay.
Knights of Columbus came up with.
And that's a religious law, obviously, right?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, so even if a business owner, okay, even if you owned a liquor store as an atheist, you couldn't sell it on Sundays.
Right. Yep. Even though I'm totally fine with it.
Yeah,
Doesn't
I
hurt
think.
anybody. It's a legal product. I don't understand why it's a law, other than the
All
fact
right,
that it's a religious thing.
let me ask you this, and I hope I don't offend anyone. So that law that you just mentioned about not being able to buy alcohol on Sundays, that is obviously, in my opinion, a Christian law. Now, at the same time, people that are homosexual are allowed to get married, which, according to the Holy Bible, is an abomination. So, what do you think that the U.S. government kind of contradicts themselves on that type of
Well,
thing?
it's just recently that they were allowed, but I believe in separation of church and state. I don't think the government should be involved with anything as far as telling people what to do based on religion. And they should take in God we trust off our money, because I'm an American citizen too. They should take under God out of the pledge. Those things were never there to begin with. They were put in there in 1954. And these are the things that atheists have to deal with every day. Did you know that 7 states have it in their state constitution where it says atheists cannot hold public office?
I did not know that.
Yes, it does.
7 states.
Yep.
Wow.
And
That
I'll
is,
give you a guess where they are.
let's see. I'm going to say, for some reason, my mind is telling me California is number 1.
No.
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 New York?
No.
I have no idea then.
Try the Bible Belt.
Oh, what is that? Texas?
More like Georgia, the Carolinas, so on.
Up the East Coast?
Yeah, pretty much the Southeast. Yep.
Wow. Not allowed to hold public office. So what if you convert?
Well, the federal law overrides it, but they refuse to take it off. It's nullified, but
Oh, I see. So you still can technically by federal law, but the states are like on paper are just being stubborn.
Yep.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about that.
Just like Mississippi was the last state to take off slavery off their constitution.
When was that?
Like in the 90s.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
You think it was just them overlooking it, or intentionally
No,
they were keeping
everyone
it
protested. They wanted them to take it off, and they're like, "Nope, we're going to keep it on, just out of spite."
Yeah. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
That's like sometimes I come across a story. I don't know where or when or if it's real or not, but it's like there's like this Confederate statue, and everyone's like, take it down, but then there's like one old black politician who's like, no, we need to keep that in our history to remember. Is that true?
I think they should keep it in history, but not on public property. Put it in a museum.
Oh, good point. Yeah.
I mean, don't forget about it. Don't get rid of it. But
Yeah.
I mean, you shouldn't be flying a Confederate flag on a state capitol building. I mean, that's what they're doing.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think it's important to keep history, because if we don't remember the mistakes that we made, then we might make them again.
Yeah, I mean, I think Germany is a good example of how they handle it, because you can go there and all the concentration camps were not destroyed and knocked down. They're still standing, and you can visit them. I've done it. So anybody who wants to deny that it ever happened, they can go there and witness it for themselves.
That's a good point. Are there people out there who actually believe that it never happened?
Oh, yeah.
There's probably whole communities that believe it never happened.
Yep.
Wow.
Yep. And if you do that, then it can happen again.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's like, we don't want to always be staring at our past mistakes in the face every day when we wake up. But if we need that little gentle reminder sometimes, it's good to have that.
Absolutely. Yeah, you don't have to harp on it, but
Exactly. It's like, how far are we willing to go before we realize that we made this mistake before? If the history's gone, we'll forget about it and we'll never remember it. We'll make the same exact mistakes again.
Yep. But see, that's a problem I have with most of the people on this app, because for some reason, I don't know why, but it seems like this app attracts a lot of African Americans.
Okay.
And when you listen randomly to the conversations, I wouldn't say a majority of them, but a lot of them deal with the issue of slavery and inequality. And I am totally against them being unequal. I mean, that's still a problem, I think, in this country. We need to address that. But when it comes down to slavery, I'm not involved with that. I have never owned a slave. I'm against slavery. The people who are talking about it also were not slaves. And they're harping on it to the point where it's like, listen, I don't want to forget about it. But on the other hand, we need to move on and make things better. So harping on it's not going to make anything better. What will is fighting for real equality. So this is a problem I'm starting to realize that exists here, and it's a way of dividing people more than bringing us together.
Okay. So let me ask you, what do you think conversations should be held in order to move forward? Like, for an example,
go ahead.
For an example, like, if there was going to be like certain bullet points to hit in a conversation about slavery or about racial inequality, like, where do you think that conversation should go?
Well, I mean, they can point out facts. I don't mind that. You can point out what happened in the past. But again, let's look at the issues that we're facing right now in this day and age. What needs to still be fixed? What things can be done to fix them? And, what are the ultimate goals here? Because harping on the past will not fix the future. It'll avoid it happening again, hopefully, but it's not going to bring us together and make equality happen. It's going to divide us even more, and I don't think that's a good idea. Okay. So I'm probably offending a shitload of people right now, but whatever.
Well, you spoke your truth. I think the easiest way to solve any problem, well, not the easiest way, but the best way to solve any problem is first to lay out, like you said, all the facts that are problems today, right?
Mm-hmm.
If we talk about problems that existed hundreds of years ago that don't exist today, like, why are we doing that? You know, I mean, for example, if we have problems today, which we do in America, I think we should talk about the problems that we have today rather than spend a whole lot of energy talking about problems that existed hundreds of years ago. Let's maybe touch on those, but then move on and say, okay, what are we dealing with today that we can fix? Because we can't change what happened.
That's pretty much what I just said, but I'm glad we agree.
Yeah. So. And it sucks that, for example, if you're born today and you're white, then historically, air quotes, your people had slaves in this country. If you're born today and you're black, air quote, your people were slaves by the white people. It really sucks for all of us because, like you said, none of us today have slaves and none of us today are slaves, but our people, air quotes, did.
Right. So it's a problem. Again, I like the way Germany is dealing with their past. It's not perfect. They still have a lot of things they can be doing, but in general, I think they're teaching it right in the schools. I think they're actually not forgetting it, and they're not really harping on it, but they're not sweeping it under the carpet either. So I think what they're doing it's a very fine line, because you don't want to go in extremes either way. But the one thing I do have a problem with, though, is they're restricting a lot of free speech by banning anything like a swastika or a Nazi symbol or anything like that, which I can understand why they're doing it. But when you start banning free speech, then it becomes sort of like an underground thing, and it becomes more, prominent in certain groups just because they can't do it, they want to do it, type of thing. So it's a problem, but I don't know. I think they're handling it much better than what we're doing, because we kind of try to sweep it under the carpet. Maybe not so much slavery, but what we've done to the Native Americans, for example. No one ever talks about that, and that's kind of been forgotten, which I am alarmed about, because the Native Americans don't really speak up loudly about it. They don't really protest much about it. Just recently, though, the Cleveland Indians are going to change their names?
Oh, Washington Redskins.
Oh, I'm sorry, Washington Redskins. So
yes.
So that's a step in the right direction. But look how long it took.
Oh yeah, I don't know when the Washington Redskins were founded, but absolutely, it took decades.
Yeah, and it should have never been to begin with, but and there's so many other teams that have the same type of names,
Yeah. Hey, I'm gonna mute myself for a second. I'm gonna let these voice messages play.
Sure.
When I went in the military, the whole issue of slavery never came up for 8 years. I went into a branch of the Army where we worked together in basic training. We worked together in our technical field for 8 weeks, and then we all went off with diplomas to different units where we were working together. White, black, non-white, all kinds of different people from all across America. Some people had never seen black people before in basic training. But the whole issue of slavery never came up. Reason why is because when we got there, we had a fine focus on what the hell we were going to do from day one to the final day we left out of there. That's what our problem is in this country. We're so focused on some bullshit when we need to just be focused on what matters, and that's taking care of each other.
That's refreshing. I think there is hope, because if you look at a place like New York City, for example, 8 million people who are pretty much all different, all different backgrounds, all different religions, all different cultures, different languages, different customs, whatever. They're all different. And yet they all pretty much are able to work together and get along in one city. Now, if 8 million people can do that, why can't 8 billion?
Great question. And that voice message, yeah, completely hit the nail on the head with that, with the fact that if people have a mission, one mission, it doesn't matter what everyone looks like. I mean, in the military, they do a great job of putting everybody in the same uniform with the same haircuts. Yeah, the females have to have their hair tied back the same way. They wear the same boots. No one's allowed makeup. So everyone kind of looks the same. And it's like, hey, we have this one mission. So it doesn't matter if you get along or not. I mean, it matters, but at the end of the day, it doesn't get the mission done. And it kind of doesn't give you the space or the energy or the time to focus on racism and differences and all that, because you have something to do and you have a time limit to do it. You have a deadline to meet.
Yeah, it unfortunately, it kind of takes a common enemy to get united. And I think that's just ridiculous, because why do we have enemies to begin with? I mean, look at during World War II, we were allies with the Soviet Union, and now they don't exist anymore, but Russia still does, and they're still pointing nuclear weapons at us.
Yeah,
it doesn't make any sense.
The nuclear weapon subject is a strange one, because it's like certain people want to have them, and then they don't want other people to have them.
Well, that doesn't make any sense.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't at all. Let me play this other voice message.
Yeah, hi guys. I'm just gonna jump in. I like to listen, and I like to say hello to atheists. And there's no hard feelings between you and me. I think that we can both have an intelligent conversation about things. And just like I believe you spoke about the Holocaust, sure, there's people that don't believe it, but we don't go around saying we don't believe it. You know what I mean? Or whoever doesn't believe it, you know. And I like to say to the other gentleman, slavery, if you're born white, you're automatically a slave. You know, had descendants of slavery. That makes no sense, because everybody was a slave. Europeans were slaves here as well. Indentured servants, slaves. Africans owned slaves. Africans owned European slaves. So we're talking about something that makes no sense, but it goes to show that I believe that.
Well, yeah, I don't know about some of the things he said there, but
well, here's what I know. I know the narrative in this country. The narrative in this country is there were black slaves owned by white plantation owners. So whatever really happened, I don't know. I didn't read enough books on it, maybe. I wasn't there. So I just know what the narrative was.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, it's tough to say exactly what happened, because everything is biased, and you know, it could have been written down a certain way, and who knows. But there really are people who go around saying the Holocaust didn't happen, and they say it verbally, and they say it forcefully, with conviction. So when he says people who believe that don't go around saying it, that's not true.
Yeah, so I mean, if I'm going to put my input in this, I'm going to say that there are people who go around saying it, and then there are people who don't. It's just like anything in life. some people do things out in the open. Some people do things behind closed doors. So yeah, there's going to be some people who go around randomly saying, hey, the Holocaust never happened. There's also going to be people who believe that, but they never open their mouth and say it.
Yeah, well, some people, yeah, good point. But there are, like he said, but I'm just saying this. He said nobody says it, and I don't agree with that. I think there are people who do say it. And, you know, that's a problem. And again, it causes, people to be separated and have an uproar about it. But
yeah, I mean, if you just look at everything from the human history, from when we started writing history until today, we have a lot of sins as human beings. We've done a lot of, if you don't want to call it a sin, that's fine. We've done a lot of harmful things to one another throughout history. So that's one thing that I don't believe will ever stop.
Okay. Probably not, because we're not perfect.
No.
But we can try our best to do what's right.
We can certainly try to do what's right. Let's see what this other message is.
Well, I appreciate both you guys' time, and we can all agree to disagree. You'll never hear me say anything negative about the Holocaust or anybody else's plight. I do agree. One thing with Brother Atheist is when he says, why do we have to hate? That part, I agree with you, my brother. Why do we have to hate? None of us have to hate. Love is the only frequency, my brother. Love. And I thank you. And like I said, no hard feelings. And I hope we can chat about other things. We can talk about nuclear weapons. I do agree with you guys on nuclear weapons as well. So we can all agree on some things and we just disagree on some things. But we all have to come together at some point. And we can talk about anything and still be adults. Peace and love. And thanks for having me. I'm out.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know why we have to live in a world with nuclear weapons. I really don't understand it.
You know what that is to me, in my opinion, when I think about nuclear weapons, I think about something that we are trying to use to intimidate other people, but that can also kill ourselves too. It's
it makes no
suicide.
sense. Yeah, it is. It makes zero sense to have them. They're extremely dangerous, and I don't think anybody has a right to launch them. Not a country, not a person. Nobody has the right to take that many lives of innocent people. I don't care what the reason is. It's wrong.
It is wrong. It's very wrong because, this reminds me of the Iraq War when it started after 9/11. And I don't remember who was saying this, but I remember hearing so many people say, well, why don't you just bomb the whole country, turn it into a parking lot? And what I've learned over the years is that Iraq also has people that are trying to live good lives, that live in the same neighborhoods as the terrorists.
Yep.
So by them, okay, let's say in America we have Detroit or Chicago. It's filled with gun violence, amongst other things. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of great people in Chicago. And that's my point.
Mm-hmm.
People in other countries probably go on the internet and they see how much gun violence is in Chicago. And they probably say the same thing. They probably say, why don't they just bomb the whole city? And we're like, well, hold on. Well, I have relatives in Chicago that, I got a nurse relative, I got a doctor relative, So to me, that kind of ignorance kind of fits right in with nuclear weapons. It's like, yeah, you might have 10 bad guys in a building, but that doesn't mean you bomb the whole neighborhood, because then you're taking out all the innocent people that live with them.
Yep.
It's 100% wrong. And I agree that nobody should have the right or the capability to do that. But like I was saying earlier, the human race is super intelligent. We've come so far. We've kind of like built our own demise.
How is that intelligent?
Well, it's bad intelligence is what it is. It's immoral intelligence, because
all right,
building nuclear weapons you have to be extremely intelligent to do that.
Why do you?
Intelligence is not always just good. Intelligence can be bad as well.
No, I agree. Well, anything can be used for good or bad, like nuclear power can, just like
Oh,
fire.
absolutely.
You could use fire for heat. You could use fire for killing people. Whatever,
Absolutely.
That's what you do with it.
And exactly. And fire is intelligence. I mean, a technology, if you will.
Yeah.
Fire doesn't just always exist in nature. Like, you have to create fire somehow. So it's a technology. It's like one of the oldest technologies around.
It does exist in nature because there's forest fires that start by themselves.
Well, I disagree that they start by themselves.
A lightning
there's
bolt
something
can
that
just set a
causes
tree on fire, and there you go.
Yes, definitely.
Okay.
Which is something that I think we can live with, is forest fires. Like, if that was the worst thing we had, I think we could live with that.
Well, we'd have to, because there's no other choice. They're going to happen.
That's true. That's just one of those things. It is what it is.
Yep. But I still want to touch a little bit on where you stand as far as, I think what you're saying is the fine-tuning argument. Correct me if I'm wrong here, but you think
Go ahead.
We were created and we are more intelligent than other animals, so that makes us special somehow, or is that what you're saying?
Special? I don't know if I'd use the word special, but yes to everything else you said. Definitely. Well, okay, so this is where it gets tricky. We might not be more intelligent than other animals. However, we have all these languages. We have hands that can grab things. We've built airplanes to travel, so we've done all these things that pretty much makes us the master of the planet. But that doesn't mean we're the most intelligent.
Good point.
For example, if you blow cigarette smoke in a dog's face, it's going to hate it. It's going to run away, right?
Mm-hmm.
But human beings know that cigarettes cause cancer, lung disease, heart disease, whatever, and they still do it. So how intelligent are we? I don't know. I think animals have more of an intelligence in their instinct than we do. Like, we smoke ourselves to death, we drink ourselves to death, we do drugs, we create nuclear weapons. Animals wouldn't do that. They would just care about survival, and we don't. Like I said, we're building our own demise.
Right. I agree. It's interesting that you brought up drugs and all that, because the reason I think people do drugs is to distort reality in order to have a false sense of comfort.
100%.
Now, would you agree that religion does that too?
No.
Why not?
Because religion, it doesn't intoxicate you.
No, but it gives you a false sense of reality for a false sense of comfort.
So here's where I disagree. Here's why I disagree with you. Because religion doesn't numb me. Like drugs numb people, like literally numb them so they don't feel anything. Religion, actually, I've become more of a sensitive person since I've been religious. Like, if I offend somebody, I feel it. I feel it really deeply. If I hurt somebody, I feel it. If I make somebody happy, I feel that also. So religion doesn't give me that numbness that drugs and alcohol do.
Interesting. Now, if you do something wrong to somebody, do you apologize to them or do you apologize to God?
Both. If I create the opportunity to do both, then I do both. Like, I've made amends with people, 10 years after I've done something wrong to them. And they're like, yo, I don't even remember that. And I'm like, well, I'm sorry anyways. And I always apologize to God as well. And he knows before I even think it that I'm sorry. I guess what I'm trying to say is God always knows what's in our hearts before we even think about it.
Interesting. Because a lot of, especially Catholics, I would say, just go to confession and they feel good about it, and that's the end of it. and the person they actually wronged never knows that they felt remorse.
Well, I mean, I can't really speak on whether that's the right way or the wrong way to do it, because that's their way of doing it. But I know I have a way of doing it, and I've never confessed to a priest. I probably did it when I was a kid as a requirement, but as an adult, no, I don't confess to priests. I try to make things right with the person that I've wronged, and then I pray and ask God for forgiveness. And I also do this thing you probably know. It's called repenting.
Mm.
Yeah, it's just basically like acknowledging that I've done something wrong, and it's like a deep regret. And I try to do that because then it allows me to feel bad for what I've done, like a remorse kind of.
Yeah, I mean, that's good to a degree, but wouldn't it be better to let the person that you wronged know that you feel that way?
So that's tricky. Yes, I do let the person know that I'm sorry, but then at the same time, a lot of people have trust issues, and here's what they'll say. They'll say, look, don't offload your burden on me to make yourself feel better. You're just trying to clear your conscience. You don't really mean it. So a lot of people won't even accept the apology.
Well, that's up to them.
Absolutely.
But you should still give them the opportunity.
Absolutely. And I do as much as possible.
Okay. Well, that you're one of the most, again, honest, and I don't know. I mean, you're not the average Christian that I run into. So.
Well, so for me, the most important thing as a Christian is admitting that the only reason I'm a Christian is because I make a lot of mistakes.
We all do.
A lot. Yeah. So it's like the more I become a Christian, the more I realize how imperfect I am.
I don't know,
some
man.
People...
You sound almost exactly like an atheist. It's amazing. I'm serious. I'm really serious. I mean, if you took the God part out of it, you'd be an atheist.
I mean, isn't that what an atheist is? Just taking the God part out of it?
Well, yeah, but I don't see why you even need the God, because if you're going to like repent to human beings that you wronged, that's good enough. I mean,
so
why does God have to get involved?
I'll give you the perfect answer to your question.
Okay.
Without God leading me up to this moment right here, I would not have all this understanding. I'm 30 years old. I would be acting like a 20-year-old jackass to this day if I never tried to understand God. So the short answer is I wouldn't be in this position if it weren't for God. I wouldn't have all this understanding and this wisdom per se without God.
All right. Well, that's shocking to me, because I think you're a good person, and I don't think you would be an asshole at this point in your life, even if you didn't have God. But that's just my opinion. I can't prove that. But in any case, I just think that you can live a good life without a God, because that's what atheists do.
I can't agree with that. I disagree. And that's the whole reason why in 2010, I was 20 years old. I chose to, like your sister, be reborn as a Christian. I did it on my own. My parents didn't force me into it. I wasn't peer pressured. I went and sought it because I was lost. And I continued to stay lost after I was born again. It's been such a slow, painful process to become a Christian. And it still is. I mean, it's less painful now because I'm better now. I'm avoiding all those poor decisions now. But it still feels like I have the messiest life in the world sometimes.
Oh, nobody's perfect, but when I look back at what we've been talking about, some things, I think most of the things we talked about, show that you are capable of doing the right thing without a God. And
again, I have to disagree, because the moment I put all my faith in myself and not in God, then I'm going to go back to doing the things that I used to enjoy. And
what's wrong with enjoying yourself?
No. Because the things I was doing, I was drinking a lot, I was smoking a lot, I was sleeping around. So I can't do that and be a Christian at the same time. It's a contradiction.
Okay, well, you are aware that those things can be harmful, correct?
Absolutely.
So you would do them anyway?
If I wasn't serving God, absolutely. If I didn't have this almighty God to fear, then yes, absolutely, I'd be doing those things.
Wow. Okay, well, I'm not you, so I can't argue that, but I'm just, all I can say is then fine, then don't stop believing in God, please.
And I truly appreciate that.
Because if that's how you're going to run your life, I'm just dumbfounded at that thought, because I don't understand why, like, people like me, because I can speak for myself, I don't do those things, and I don't believe in a God.
So I'm just speculating when I say this, but I think that you were pretty good as a young person. Like you pretty much weren't as lost as I was. Like when I was a kid, I mean, I had a rough childhood and I was lost. So I needed something to guide me through life, and I couldn't find it anywhere else. And then I started, putting my faith in God, and that's what I'm here now. So let's check out this message.
There are plenty of Christians who do that. And you have to give yourself, you can say it was God or your belief in God, but you still had to make that choice. So therefore it's still you. I mean, I think you could do it without God, but you don't. But either way, you still made the choice. So, you're a good person with or without him.
See, I would agree with that, but I'm not you.
Yeah, so that's pretty complicated, and I can't really say a whole lot on that, except that the life that I'm living now with God, that's what I have to continue doing. It's like that gentleman that came on earlier and left a voice message about the military, how he said that when people come together and have a mission, they kind of like become better people. Like that's me. It's like I need that mission that's always just out of reach, that keeps me going, because as a Christian, like I'm never done learning how to be a better Christian. In the military, the mission is never done. There's a million missions out there, so it's kind of the same concept. It just keeps me going, striving for more and more, and never being satisfied with where I'm at.
Okay. I'm going to open up a little and give you a personal experience, if you don't mind.
Go for it.
So when I was 19, my mother died and left me with nothing except 2 younger siblings to take care of. And it was a big shock. I wasn't prepared for it. I was homeless and had no money. And it was a very big burden. And I looked at it and said, okay, what do I do in this situation? And I looked at my options. And of course, one of the options is always you can kill yourself, right? But I looked at that and said, well, that's a permanent solution to a temporary problem. So let's move on.
So you had that wisdom as a 19-year-old. That's impressive.
Thank you. Then I moved on to, I said, well, I can just take drugs or whatever and pretend it never happened and just live in some kind of daze, But that wouldn't help my siblings, and that wouldn't help the situation either. So I didn't do that. Then I said, well, maybe I can pray to God, even though I don't believe in one, and see what happens. And I said, well, actually, since I don't believe in it, I can't do that either. And I doubt it would really do anything. So I didn't do that either. And what I ultimately did was look at the situation and say, well, how do other people have places to live? How do other people have food on the table? They work for it. So that's what I did. I got out, I got 3 jobs, worked my ass off 14 hours a day, and took care of the situation. And
Very pragmatic.
yeah, so if I can do that, anybody can.
Yeah, that's way more than I've ever dealt with. So you and I had 2 completely different problems. You know,
Right.
you
So
had
I'm sorry, go ahead.
you had this problem that it I don't want to say it had one answer, but it had a pretty clear answer, right? You were homeless. You needed somewhere to live. I mean, there's a million different ways to solve that problem, but you kind of had one problem. My problem was like, hey, as a person, I'm lost. I don't know who I am. I don't know what my life means. So, it's like you can't solve the same problem you can't solve different problems with just one solution, is what I'm saying. So yours was definitely way more serious than mine. And that's why I said pragmatic, because it kind of had, we both had pragmatic solutions. Mine was religion. Yours was work hard. And it worked. And it both worked out for both of us.
Well, I think, it just bothers me that people have to, seek out something. I mean, I look at the world as like we need each other to help each other, right?
Yep.
So why do we need a supernatural being on top of that?
Well, that's a great question that I don't know if I have the answer to. I mean, we're all equal as humans, I believe. So it's like maybe, this is going to sound so cliche, but it is like maybe we're all the sheep and we need our shepherd.
How come I didn't need it?
That's a good question. How come you didn't need it? Well, from the beginning, you said that you have empathy, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So you had empathy for your siblings, right?
Yeah.
As a Christian, that's the right thing to do. As an atheist, that's the right thing to do. So, our morals kind of align either way.
You know why? Because you're not basing it on a book.
Well, I was.
No,
and you weren't.
No. The fact that you say that slavery is immoral shows me you're better than that book. You can think without the book. And everything you judge the book on is based on your own morality. So you have your own morality to determine what's good in the book and what's not. You know some things in the Bible are wrong and some things are good. And you determine that on your own.
Well, no, I don't, because there's certain things that the Bible has taught me that I thought was okay that's not.
Like, okay, tell me more.
The biggest thing that I'm dealing with now, forever, since I became a man, was sexual immorality. I thought it was okay. I thought it was cool. I thought it was something I should be doing. And now it's like, okay, I have to deny myself. And honestly, my life is so much better when I don't do it.
Hold on. I'm confused. Did you ever rape anyone?
Sexual immorality is not just rape. It's like having sex out of marriage, sleeping around with different women, stuff like that.
What's wrong with that? Is it consensual?
Of course, it's consensual.
Well, then there's nothing wrong with it.
Well, see, that's where we disagree.
Yeah, the only reason why you would think that is because of some religion that tells you that.
Well, that's the writing that tells me that. And like I said, again, my life has gotten better. I feel better about myself since I've stopped doing that.
You could have done that on your own.
But I didn't know. That's my point.
Of course you did.
No, I didn't.
Oh, come on.
I didn't know. The Bible taught that to me. So let's see. We got another voice message.
Atheist, what it do? Worldwideism for president, man. Just tapping in, letting you know, man. I respect you, bro. Whatever the fuck you know, don't believe in and all that shit, you a cool dude, man. And shout out to the other guy.
Why don't you shout out to him equally? Because he exists too, you know.
Worldwide is, hey, that's fine. That's fine. You come with this strong presence, you know, like your username is atheist. I mean, you have a bold presence. I think people kind of gravitate towards that. I'm just a guy with a name.
Maybe, but he said he respects me, which I don't really care about, because I don't care. I just want the truth. I care about the truth. I hope he cares about the truth, because living your life and believing things that are not true can be very dangerous. And I personally, I want to believe as many true things as possible and reject as many false things, because I think that's the best way to live your life.
I think so too. Let's see what this other voice message is.
So you could feel better about yourself for your what you call sexual immorality without God. Like there are people who sleep around and sleep with many women, and then they stop and get married, and or they just stop and feel better. They don't have to be Christian. They might not even read that in Christianity. They just grew up.
Yeah. So people deal with things differently. I deal with it as a Christian. Some people don't.
I still don't get it. I'm sorry that I can't grasp that. But
so look, I'll try to explain it this way. So the more I read the Bible, the more that I'm convicted of its truth. The more that I'm convicted of its truth, the more that it feels real to me, right? So earlier we mentioned that we can't prove the existence of God or prove that God doesn't exist, right? However, with my level of conviction, when I follow the instructions, the guidance of the Bible, I feel good about it. It could be a placebo. It might not be. I don't know. I'm just a human man who's trying to live a good life. So you could be right. I could be right. We both could be right. I don't know. It's just what I believe, and it's my convictions.
Okay, but it just blows my mind, because I am living proof that people don't need God to live a good life. So even if there was a God, he would be useless to me.
So I got to go back to you saying good life. For different people, that means different things. Good life is something that we define ourselves. It doesn't just have one standard definition.
Well, obviously, you think sleeping around is not a good life.
Bigger than that. Go ahead.
Yeah, that's part of it, though, right?
That is, yep.
Okay. Now, under my moral system of empathy for others, I mean, as long as it's consensual and we're both enjoying it, I don't see a problem with it. I don't think that's a bad thing.
And that makes sense that you think that way, because you don't have conviction from the Holy Bible.
Right. So why would you? I mean, again, it's so. It amazes me that you agreed because you agreed with me just before we took that message that the best way to live your life is believing as many true things as possible and rejecting as many false things as possible. Right? You agreed with me on that.
Yes.
Okay. Now, what I want to know is how you find out what's true and what's not.
Yeah. So when I was younger, I felt like lost and terrible and weak and no purpose and no character or whatever. So I kind of threw myself into what I was doing. And part of that was becoming a Christian. Now that I don't feel lost anymore and I feel good about myself, I mean, it's kind of simple. I feel like I owe it to God. So let me just give him what he wants. And because he's already given me what I want.
How do you know what he wants, though?
Because it's in the Bible.
Oh. But we already agreed that God could exist even if the Bible didn't. Right?
Well,
so if you didn't have the Bible to read, how would you know what God wants?
And people would have to preach it to me.
Yeah, that's not a good way to communicate what he wants.
I mean,
he's the Almighty, right? I mean, that's the best way he can come up with an old book that's written in languages that are dying out.
Well, I read the New International Version, so it's actually really easy to understand.
The fact that we have different versions already is a problem.
I don't think it's a problem because there's how many different languages on this planet?
Yeah, and since God knows everything, wouldn't he have known that we're going to have all these problems with the Bible trying to interpret it? Because there's over 10,000 different versions of Christianity. I mean,
well, I don't think it's a problem because I don't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. I was pretty much. I just don't understand how, an almighty God who has a very important message to form people's worldviews, right? To tell them what's right and wrong. And he uses people to write this stuff down. He's almighty. He couldn't do, I mean, Jesus didn't even write any of the Bible. Why was he here if he didn't even bother writing anything down? But we have other people who are not perfect, who are fallible, and writing things down vaguely through parables and whatnot. And this is supposed to be the most efficient, important way to get the message out. It doesn't make any sense.
Well, we both know written instructions are just the foundation. You could compare it to building a car. You have people that don't know how to read, that know how to build cars. You have people that know how to read. They read, how do I build a car? Then they go build it. So my point is, I'm the type of person who reads the Bible first and then tries to practice it. So not only am I getting the written word as I'm reading it, but I'm trying to live that way too. So it's an experience. It's not just reading and then walking away from the Bible and forgetting about it. If that makes sense.
I hate to bring this up, but you're not trying to practice slavery.
Well, the Bible doesn't tell me to get slaves.
It tells you where you can buy them, tells you how long you can own them for, tells you how you can treat them. You can beat them with a rod as long as they don't die within a day or two. It says you can give them down to your children as inheritance because they're your property. I mean, it's pretty straightforward there.
Well, for me, I don't have slaves, so that doesn't apply to me.
But if you're worried about sinning, right, that's not considered a sin.
But I don't have slaves.
Yeah, and you're choosing that despite the Bible.
Well, I mean, I couldn't even get slaves if I wanted them. So it's not like I'm choosing.
Oh, yes, you could.
It's not like I'm walking past Walmart and I'm like, I'm not going to buy the slaves today.
Slavery is still allowed in certain places.
Well, look, I'm not there. I don't want to be there. Let's take this voice message. 2 of them, actually.
A couple of things. One, it annoys me when people say, well, you could be right and I could be right when they're diametrically opposing opinions. Like, that's incorrect. You can't be a god and no god. There either is or there isn't. It's just that always annoys me when people are like, we could all be right, and no. So secondly, when you talk about a good life, so let's say somebody led their life exactly as you live your life, but was an atheist. Did all the same actions, but just didn't believe in God. Would you consider that living a good life? I know what I'm going to guess you're going to say, but I'd like to hear your actual answer.
Good question. My answer is that I can't judge somebody else's life as good or bad. I don't care if that annoys you. I don't care how that makes you feel. But I'm not here to judge an atheist. I'm not here to judge a Christian. I'm here to judge my own life. That's it. It's very simple. And I didn't mean earlier that you could be right about being no God, or I could be right about being no God. Maybe that's how it sounded, but I didn't mean that. I just mean that neither one of us can prove. The atheist can't prove there's no God, and I can't prove there is. So that's what I meant.
Well, you just said, though, you don't own slaves because you don't want to, right?
Well, what do you elaborate on that? If you're gonna, rephrase what I said, elaborate on that.
Well, you literally said you're not going to go anywhere where it's legal in order to own slaves, right? You make that choice.
Yeah, I mean it's pretty simple. It's straightforward. I don't want slaves, even if I can't have them.
So the Bible says there's nothing wrong with it. You could own them if you wanted to. Yet you choose on your own not to. Despite
some things in life are just personal preference, like marriage. It's actually okay not to get married, but it's also okay to get married. So personal preference. Some things are just personal preference. It's that simple.
I'd have to disagree with you on the marriage thing because, I mean, you have an instinct, a survival instinct, and you're born with wanting to have sex.
Okay, so the Bible clearly says that it's okay to get married and it's okay not to get married. So personal preference.
Yeah, but it says you can't have sex without marriage.
Right? Well, it doesn't say you can't do it. It says that it's not right.
Yeah. So I don't understand how it can say that. Why would God supposedly create people with this undeniable urge to have sex and then make it impossible to have sex outside of marriage without sinning? You don't see a contradiction there.
I don't see a contradiction. What I see is a test. I see a test of willpower and discipline and your compass. Do you want to do it? Do you want to not do it?
There are things we're born with that it's not, you can't just have free will and not do it or do. It's like you can't just hold your breath.
Well, are you implying that you need sex to live your life, to stay alive?
Yeah, you definitely need that. It's scientifically proven.
So you're telling me that if somebody never has sex, they're going to die at a young age?
Yeah.
That's not true.
It is.
I know guys in their 50s who are virgins.
What?
Yeah, I mean it's not me, but I know a guy in his 50s who's a virgin.
Has he have any relationships at all with people? Or?
I mean, he is socially very, very difficult to get along with. So I couldn't imagine anyone wanting to date him unless they're exactly like him.
Well, it's sort of like sleep. You don't get enough of it, you're going to die.
I don't agree with that. I don't think sex is something that we need for survival. I mean, maybe to continue the human generation, the human race, but for our personal survival, no, we don't need sex.
Wow.
Let's take this other voice message.
All right.
Yes, but there are also people who live their entire lives and never even hear about Christianity. People in Africa, people, Eskimos, never see a Bible, never have an opportunity to even learn these tenets. So if they were so important, if this was the way you're supposed to live your life, don't you think God would at least let everyone know? Why would you have people that live their entire life without knowing it? Why put it in a book that has to be spread and taught to people, as opposed to just telling everyone or putting it in everyone's head that here's the rules that I want you to abide by because I'm God and I'm all powerful, and you don't have to do it. You have free will to disobey, but why would you have people that never even hear of it?
Yeah. So he's asking me to explain God's motives, and I just can't do that.
Well, you can't explain what God wants either.
I mean, you can if it's in writing.
God didn't write that.
I didn't say he wrote it. I said in writing.
Yeah, but how do the people who wrote it down know?
I mean, maybe they were inspired by God to write it. Just like maybe I'm inspired right now to have a very long conversation with an atheist. I mean, people are inspired to do things.
Yeah, but it doesn't make it true, though. If I'm inspired to write a book, I can write a fiction book. Just because I was inspired to do it doesn't make it true.
So I don't want to have a misunderstanding here about this, is that your truth and my truth are obviously different.
All right. There's only one truth, which is the objective truth. And what we're doing is having perceptions on what the truth is.
Because we can't prove the objective truth.
Right. Well,
yeah,
you can get close to it, though. You can get mighty close to it.
We can get, I wouldn't say mighty close.
Sure.
Okay, what's your best argument?
Depending on how much evidence you have for it.
What's your best argument that God doesn't exist?
I can't.
Let's see how close you can get.
Well, I can talk about the God of the Bible. I don't know about other gods. But if evolution's a fact, which it is, then we evolved, and we were not made from dirt and a rib, which means there was no Adam and Eve, which means there was no first sin, which means there was no reason for Jesus to die. So that's where I stand.
Okay, so that's where you stand, and you can't prove it.
Of course I can prove evolution.
But you can't prove that God didn't create the first humans.
Well, sure. If evolution, you can't have it both ways. Either we evolved from lower life forms, or we were made from dirt and a rib. You can't have it both ways.
So what are the lower life forms?
Anything that has any other animal, any other species.
Well, that's not a very solid answer. So let's take the next voice message.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, just to chime in, sex is a basic need. It is. It's at the bottom of the pyramid, along with food, air, and safety. Yeah, you do need sex. You do.
Yeah.
So look, all I'm saying is I don't need sex to stay alive. If I continue to not have sex, I'm not going to die because of that.
You could.
I mean, like I said, I know a guy in his 50s who's a virgin, 50 plus years with no sex. So obviously that's proof that sex, it might be a basic desire, but it's not something that's going to kill you if you don't get it. That's a fact. That's proof. It's been proven.
It's not going to kill you if you hold your breath for a minute.
Well, if you hold your breath for too long, you're just going to pass out, and then you're going to wake up later.
Well, you're not going to die if you don't eat in a day.
No, you'll die if you don't eat in a year, though.
That's my point.
Well, my point is...
Eventually it'll get to you.
Okay, so if I don't eat for a year, I'm going to die. But if I don't have sex for a year, I guarantee that's not going to kill me.
It takes longer, but it still happens.
Okay, well, that's fine. That's fine if it takes longer. Everyone's going to die someday.
So you might as well just starve yourself.
I don't see the connection or the logic behind that. Let's take another voice message.
So I have a question. What does God have against foreplay? Why does God not like that?
I've never heard that question before, and I cannot answer that question because I have no idea. That is it's a very unique question.
Okay.
All right, let's take the next one.
No, that's a cop-out. I didn't ask you to explain God's motives. The conversation is, if there is a God, he would, and do you not believe that God wants everyone to follow his rules? So if you don't believe that he wants everyone to follow his rules, or you do. And so if you do believe that God wants you to follow the rules, the things in the Bible, then that's his motives. You're right there. You're saying, now I'm saying God's motives because he wants me to live a good life, the life that's prescribed in the Bible. So there you are talking about his motives. So now I'm talking about, since that's what God wants, you think that's what God wants, why wouldn't he tell everybody this? You can't say in one hand you this is what God wants, and then on the other hand say, well, I can't speak for God.
So let me just clear this up. You're asking me why God isn't spreading his word in a more efficient way. And again, I can't answer that. The first part of your question was, do I believe he wants everyone to live the life that he wants them to live? And I believe that answer is yes. But I can't answer why he's not spreading his word more efficiently. No, I can't answer that. So I don't know what trap you're trying to get me in, or what you're trying to confuse my conversation or whatever. But if you have a direct question, just ask the direct question. If your question is, do I believe God wants everyone to follow his word? I believe the answer is yes. If your question is, why isn't he doing a better job of spreading his word? I don't know. I don't know the answer to that question. I don't know if anyone knows the answer to that question.
But logically, it doesn't make sense.
Okay, well, that's why you're an atheist, because it doesn't make sense to you.
Not just to me. I mean, it shouldn't make sense to you either.
Well, sometimes faith doesn't make sense.
That's the problem with faith.
You see it as a problem. I see it as not a problem.
I know, but you agreed with me that believing as many true things as possible is the best way to live.
Okay, and again, your truth is obviously different than mine. Your truth is that God doesn't exist. My truth is that he does.
I don't have my own truth. I only have my own perceptions of the truths. And the thing is, it's like everything I believe is based on evidence, which means I'm closer to the truth than people who don't have evidence. And the people who don't have evidence believe based on faith. That's a problem to me.
Okay, well, that's why we're in this conversation. That's why your username is atheist, because you are an atheist. And I mean, at least you're sticking to your guns.
I'm open-minded, though. All you have to do is provide some evidence.
Well, look, we went over this a while ago, and I very clearly told you that I cannot prove to you that God exists, and I'm not trying to do that.
All right, well, I'm not trying to get you to convert either. But
let's take another one of these messages.
Okay.
You can't prove a negative. If there was evidence of something not existing, then it would exist. Like, what is the evidence that invisible dragons are not stomping around on my lawn right now? Like, there's no evidence of non-existence. If something doesn't exist, it doesn't leave evidence. Therefore, that's it. That's why when you make a truth claim, when you're claiming there's something exists, you then have to present evidence. But if you're saying something doesn't exist, then you can't prove that. You can't provide evidence of something that does not exist. That's the opposite of evidence.
Okay,
do you understand that?
Yes, and again, I am not trying to prove to Matty Wash or to atheist that God exists. I mean, Matty Wash, look, man, if you have a question for me, just ask a question. You're talking about invisible dragons and stuff. If you have a question, just ask the question. I'm taking the next message.
Well, it might not kill you physically per se, but your generation kind of ends with you, pretty much. So you do die in a sense, you know. So it's a survival. It's a survival mechanism, and that's why it's a basic need for procreation, if you choose.
Thank you for that.
Okay. I think I didn't mean to back you into a corner, but you really sounded defensive there for a second. And you keep saying, "Oh, ask me a specific question." I mean, I think what he's trying to get at is how do you think logically when you're making illogical assumptions and assertions?
Well, for me, the logic is that since I became a Christian, my life has gotten a lot better. That's my logic. If you don't like it, that's fine.
No, it's not that I don't like it.
And I'm not just talking to you. I'm talking to Maddie also. Like, obviously, I'm way outnumbered here. I'm being debated by you. I'm being debated by Maddie. I'm being debated by, I forget her name. So, of course, I'm feeling a little defensive, but I'm trying my best to not let my emotions get the best of me here, because we're talking about religion, which is a very sensitive topic, and it's something that no one can just prove right now. So this is kind of one of those discussions that can just never end, in the debate that just can't be won.
No, I'm not. Again, I'm not trying to convert you. What I'm trying to do, though, is point out your logical fallacies and your lack of critical thinking when it comes to using faith.
I mean, that's your opinion that my logic has holes in it, and that whatever. That's your opinion. But to me, being a Christian makes sense.
Yeah, that's what scares me, because that's what religion does to the mind.
So what scares you about that?
Because when I see people who can't think critically and then base their worldview on it, that is dangerous.
How's that dangerous? How's that going to hurt you?
Wow, really?
Just answer the question.
Well, I know people, for example, who don't wear their seatbelts because they think they can pray instead of wearing a seatbelt, and they'll be. That's dangerous. Isn't it?
Okay. Well, number one, that's only going to hurt them, and number two, I wear my seatbelt, so that's that.
Okay, but there's other things. If you believe something false, I don't know what your actual beliefs are in any situation, but you have a worldview based on faith, which is dangerous.
Okay,
Eventually.
But you're still not giving me something like solid here to work with. How is that dangerous to you or to anyone else?
Well, are you holding back science? Are you denying evolution?
Okay, how is that dangerous?
That's to me, it's a crime against humanity, because science has actually doubled our lifespans.
Do you understand the word dangerous, what that means? That means somebody is in danger. How am I putting anyone in danger with my faith?
Well, maybe not specifically you at this very moment, but I can give you many examples of how people of faith cause danger, not only to themselves.
Go ahead,
but
give me one.
All right. Well, there are people who believe on faith that they can pray to God and not have to bring their children to a hospital, because the prayer will heal their children, and they end up dying.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's
you don't see the danger in that?
Well, I bet you there's people out there who do that aren't religious too.
No, they wouldn't pray to a God if they didn't believe in it.
No. I'm talking about the bigger picture of not going to a hospital for a certain reason. Like my old roommate she told me she never took medicine. She's in her mid-50s. She's never taken medicine. She doesn't go to the doctor, but she's not a Christian.
Well, that's her personal choice, but children don't have that choice. Children are too young to make that decision, and their parents make it for them.
Okay, so you're talking from a parental,
Yeah,
and very specifically, but there's a lot of Christians that do go to the hospital, right?
yeah, but not all of them.
Okay, well,
And the ones that don't, based on faith, makes it a very dangerous proposition.
okay, but nowhere in the Bible does it say don't take your kid to the hospital, right?
I don't know.
It doesn't. I promise you that.
They can interpret it that way.
Well, then that might be dangerous in that very specific thing, but nowhere in the Bible does it say avoid hospitals, just pray. That doesn't exist in the Bible. So that is that person interpreting the Bible in that way.
Yeah, based on faith.
So I agree that religious interpretations can be dangerous. However, it's just an interpretation. It's
still
a personal
dangerous.
interpretation.
When you use faith to believe something that's not true, it's dangerous. That's my point.
Okay. I'm not disagreeing with that.
Okay, well, you use faith, and you can believe things that are not true based on faith, which puts yourself in danger. And others.
So are you worried? Are you worried about my safety?
To a degree, yeah.
Okay, well, I appreciate that.
Because I really don't know what this could lead to.
Hopefully, heaven.
Oh, you believe in heaven? This is a good topic. First of all, explain to me what heaven is.
Heaven is supposed to be a paradise that never ends.
Okay. How do you get there?
Supposedly, we die and we are individually judged by God. And if we're judged as, I guess, good, then we go to heaven.
Well, some Christians tell me you just have to believe in God, and other people tell me you have to live a good life, and other people tell me you have to do both. So everybody has a different idea of how to get there.
Well, that's because people don't die and come back. So it's hard to say exactly what the criteria is to go to heaven.
Wow. Okay. Again, why is everything so vague with God? Why doesn't he just freaking tell us?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I can't answer that.
It's an important topic, you would think. It's only eternity.
It's yeah. It is important, and some things are vague, but I can't answer them. I mean,
yeah, because
I don't know.
See, that's kind of my point. But
I mean, yeah, your point is that faith, there's a lot of unknowns. That is absolutely true. Being religious, there's a lot of unknown factors that people are just like, all right, well, I'm just going to walk by faith, not by sight. And yeah, that can be scary, man. I'm not telling you that being a Christian is like always the funnest thing. Like, it's not. Sometimes it's scary.
No, again, I want to know why is there a judgment day when, like, I'm an atheist, right? Do you think I'll go to hell? Or do you think I'll not go to heaven?
I don't know.
You don't know. Okay.
You know what I honestly believe? I honestly believe that if you're an atheist, but you still try to do the right thing all the time, then I believe there's a better chance that you'll go to heaven.
A better chance.
I mean, yeah.
Okay. So what are the odds for me then?
I don't know, man. You're asking the wrong.
You said it's a better chance. You didn't say
meaning that your odds are in your favor is what I believe.
All right. So if God knows how I'm going to be judged before I'm even born, then how is it even possible for me to be a bad person?
Because you make your own decisions.
I don't, because God already decided how I'm going to be judged, which means I can't be bad.
You can be, though. You can do the bad. You can do wrong things.
If God judged me before I was even born, he knows how he's going to judge me on Judgment Day. He knows it, and he can't be wrong because he's all powerful and almighty, and he knows everything, and he can't be wrong. which means there's no other way for it to happen, right? That judgment will stand no matter
All
what
right.
I do.
Well, let's take another message.
I love when he's just changing. All right.
Well, because I gave you my answer. My answer is I don't know. You want me to answer it, but I can't. So do you want to keep asking the same question in a different way? Or do you want to maybe take another voice message from...
Your answer was, I have free will. That was your answer, which doesn't make sense.
That just means that as a human, like, your mind controls your body, and then you decide what to do. If you want to walk out of a door, you can choose to do that at any time. To me, that's what free will means.
See, you're not looking at this logically at all, because you can't toss a coin and have it come up heads and tails at the same time. So you can't have free will and have God know exactly what you're going to do every moment of the day, every second. He knows that. There's no other way it can happen. No matter how hard you try, whatever you do is going to be what God wants you to do.
Well, then I just hope
it's God's will, not my will.
Well, then I just hope that God is looking out for me.
He already determined what your judgment day is. He already knows.
All right, let's take the next message.
Okay.
If we are all made in God's image, how come we're not invisible?
Wow.
You want to take that one? Because I have no answer on that one.
Maybe because he doesn't exist.
All right, let's take the next one.
What I'm actually asking is, a God that's all-knowing would spread the word in the way that everyone would know it. That's why the God doesn't exist. It doesn't make logical sense for this God that's all-knowing and all-powerful and wants you to follow his prescribed rules and read the Bible and know all these things and live your life in a certain way, but yet doesn't tell everyone. That story doesn't make sense. So when you're saying, well, I don't know, it's kind of weird that God works mysterious ways. Or maybe there's another answer. There is no God. It's made up by man.
Well, that wasn't a question, so let's go on to the next one.
No, it's just a comment. Go ahead.
I asked many questions. I already asked you a question. I asked you a question as to why would an all-knowing, all-powerful God not have everyone give everyone the rules that he wants you to live by, especially when your eternal soul is at risk? I asked that question. That's plain and simple. And the only reason I brought up the disproving thing is because you said I'm making comments specifically to the things that you're saying. So you said specifically atheists, prove to me that God does not exist. And that's when I made my comment. So I'm not saying you're trying to prove he exists, but you asked atheists to prove he doesn't exist to you, or you said, I can't prove he exists and you can't prove he doesn't exist. Well, those are two different things. They're not equal. It sounds like it's equal, but it's not. You can't prove anything doesn't exist.
Okay, well, he asked the same question again. Why would an all-knowing, all-powerful God not spread his message better? And again, my answer is I don't know.
See, the thing is, if you look at the world objectively and the way things work, because people go, gee, why would an all-loving God let children die of cancer? And if you look at everything that happens, good or bad, it happens exactly as if there was no God. Because that would explain everything. Instead of making excuses for God, oh, well, the devil and free will and this and that, and he's almighty. He controls everything. He's responsible for everything. But people don't want to hear that. Every time something good happens, praise Lord. When something bad happens, oh, well, he's not responsible.
You know what I think the problem with society is? Is people want simple answers. They want things explained to them very simply in a matter of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then wrap it up. And put tape on it, put a nice bow on it, and then move on. But that's not how life works. Life is complicated. There's a lot of moving pieces in life. I mean, the world is a very complicated place. So if you're looking for simple answers, I might have some simple answers for some things, but certain things I just don't have the answer for, and I just walk by faith. And if you have a problem with that, you can attack my logic all you want, but my answer is not going to change.
Okay, that was going to be my next question. Like, are you closed-minded? Nothing can change your mind at all?
While I'm alive, as far as I can see, in my mind, in my heart, in my soul, or whatever, spirit, I will continue to believe in God. I mean, I read the Bible every single day, and that's just what it is. I mean, I don't think there's anything that could happen that would just like be an off switch for me to where I'm saying like, oh, well, I don't believe in God anymore.
So no matter how many people and how many things they point out to you that it's not logical or makes any sense or goes against common, critical thinking skills. I mean, wow.
Well, you have to remember, I've had experiences that, to my belief, were experiences with God. So unless your logical words are more powerful than what I've experienced in my life, then no, I'm not going to change my mind. Because, I mean, think about it. We don't know each other. I don't know what you've been through. You don't know what I've been through. So if you think a conversation of logic is going to change my life's work as a Christian, then you should open up your mind and ask yourself, like, why does this guy believe in God so much?
I do. I ask that of everybody who believes in God, because they haven't given me any logical or any kind of evidence or any kind of anything. The only things they tell me is A, they believe it on faith. B, they have a personal relationship with him. And C, they have some kind of personal experience. Those are the only things they can say why they believe.
Why do you have a problem with that? Do you have a problem with that?
I'm not the thought police, first of all.
No. I'm just asking, because if you have a problem with someone else's beliefs, then maybe you need to do some self-inventory and ask, why do you care so much?
I don't care
if I'm a Christian.
Believe. I just care when they knock on my door and try to get me to believe. When they put "In God We Trust" on my money, when they put "Under God" in my pledge, when they make laws that I have to obey, right? This is the problem I have. If they would just believe it and kept it to themselves, or kept it in church and made it a private thing, not a problem. Not a problem at all. That's freedom. Everybody has the right to do that. I'm not advocating for making religion illegal. Again, I'm not the thought police. However, when it causes harm to other people, when children are dying because they're not being brought to hospitals, when people are flying through windshields because they think Jesus is going to protect them somehow from crashing into a freaking telephone pole. I mean, these are harmful things that bother, and they're unnecessary. That's the problem.
I'm not defending those things.
Good, because and there's plenty more. I mean, how many holy wars are there, right? How many people in the Middle East are dying because of religion right now?
Hey, brother, I'm not defending those things.
Well, in a way you are, because
I'm not
believing things on faith.
But I'm not believing dangerous things on faith.
Maybe you aren't, but other people are. And
okay, well, listen, don't confront me with someone else's problems, because I can't solve their problems, and I'm not responsible for their problems.
Is believing things on faith that are not true. That is the cause of all of this.
Well, you think that, whatever. I'm not
It's a fact.
getting in my car. I'm putting on my seatbelt. You know, if my
Well, that's a specific thing, but I don't know you, like you said. I don't know who you are, and I don't know what you do. But your worldview, the things you do, is based on your worldview, and your worldview is based on faith. So I don't know exactly what harmful things you're doing, but I can almost guarantee you 100% that you're doing something harmful to yourself based on faith.
Great. I'm glad you think that. I'm glad you have such low expectations of a complete stranger.
Well, it doesn't matter who you are, but if you use faith for your worldview, that's where I stand as far as how people live their lives based on that. It's dangerous.
Noted. Let's take the next message.
You already said you were a good person, and there's no reason to get defensive. The problem is that we're asking questions that don't have answers because it's the same. This is why we're atheists. And so to get defensive about it, we're not attacking you. We've actually I've heard atheists. I've heard everyone. I've even said you're a perfectly good person. I'm saying you could be good without God. Now, as far as you saying I need this, or this is what I did and that's my perception and my truth and that's what I needed to get, that's fine, but it doesn't. First off, aren't you supposed to as a
There's probably a part 2 to that.
Yeah, go ahead.
I got cut off. As a Christian, save other people? Aren't you supposed to save souls? And I'm pretty sure that's a part of the Christian religion, is to spread the word of God. So as far as that goes, when we're trying to, first of all, it would be unfair. Seems to me as unfair.
There's probably a third part.
Yep.
I don't know why I keep getting cut off. Why it seems unfair that God would give you an example of his existence, but only you, that can't be shared with other people to prove his existence. Like he should do that to everyone. I would like to live a good life, but I've believed in God, and I feel much better now not believing and having escaped Christianity.
Look, man, that is a great point. And if anyone out there is looking for an experience with God and they never got it, like, I feel really sorry for you, and I'm truly sorry. That's very sad. I mean, the same thing would apply. Is like, why do some people get cancer? They don't smoke. They live good lives. Like, why do unfair things happen? I don't know.
Maybe because there's no God.
Well, that's where we have to agree to disagree. We have to agree to disagree. If we're going to be smart about this and wise about this, we should agree to disagree, because we're not convincing each other right now.
I know. I'm not trying to convince you. I'm just giving you logical things to think about. And if you care about what the truth is, you should consider them. But if you don't care about what the truth is and just want to believe what you want to believe, that's fine too.
Well, it's not like I'm believing random thoughts. I mean, like I told you, I read the Bible, and that's the foundation.
Yeah, and it's just a book, and you can't prove that's true either. But
okay,
can I just say, though, that I'm in a very unique situation because I've never been in this app where I've only had atheists on my side making comments. So I see where you can feel defensive, and I apologize. I mean, we're not trying to gang up on you here. And you've been a pretty good sport about it, because you've been honest, like I've said before. And when you don't know, you say you don't know, which is an honest thing to do. So I'm not faulting you for that. I think that's very commendable. But the fact that you admit that you're so close-minded that no matter what logic people use on you or what kind of critical thinking they bring up, you're just going to continue to believe what you want to believe. And that, to me, is dishonest.
Okay.
So I guess we can listen to the other messages, but I'm pretty much finished at that point.
Yeah, let's take the next one.
Hey, this is a question for Norge. I hope this is not too personal. I just wanted to know, I heard that you are not sexually active, or maybe I heard wrong. I just wanted to know, how do you let go of the sexual tension and the sexual energy? How do you free yourself from that? I'm just curious, because that's like a superpower, dude. I'm just curious.
Yeah, that is a good question. Obviously, I'm no master at that, but the easiest way for me to explain it is that when those desires and tensions appear, which they do, I acknowledge it, because I'm not going to ignore it. I acknowledge, okay, this is what I'm dealing with right now, and then I just continue to do what I was doing. And boredom can really be dangerous with the sexual tensions. Like, if you're not doing anything and you're bored, then yeah, I think we're more likely to act on those desires. But if we're doing something, it makes it a little bit easier. So that's what I try to do. And like I said, I'm no master at this. I struggle with it all the time. But so far, it's good. It's good. I enjoy my life more not being a whore.
Can I just...
And I don't mean any offense to anyone when I say
no,
that.
No, but I'm so confused. How could you have a better life when you're struggling with something?
Oh, well, I mean, that's, to me, it's like, how do you enjoy joy to the maximum? It's when you deal with pain. How do you enjoy happiness to the maximum? It's when you're sad. It's like, if I know what it's like to struggle, then when I'm not struggling, I appreciate those times a lot more. And to add on to that, it's like, when I believe I'm doing the right thing, my conscience is more clear. I'm not always thinking like, damn, I just fucked up, in a sense. And that's just me. Some people don't see it as fucking up, but I do, for myself.
Yeah, it's unnecessary.
That's your opinion.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, let's take the next one.
So I might be tortured for the rest of my life and not get to go to heaven. And I have no clue as to if it's, do I just have to believe? Do I have to do good works? I have no clue. So I'm going to be judged based upon criteria that I do not know. And that's going to determine my eternal soul's fate. And sounds like a good plan, I guess. I don't know. I don't know why I don't believe this.
So the criteria, according to the Bible, if you're actually curious, is Jesus gives commandments. Obviously, God gave commandments. And Jesus says that the two most important commandments are, number one, is to love God with all your heart, with all your mind, with all your soul. And the second most important command is to love each other as we love ourselves. So if you're actually curious about what to do to go to heaven, then starting with those two commandments is a perfect place to start.
Yeah, to start, but it's not the ultimate. You could still go to hell.
Well, I mean, if you follow those two commandments all the time, then no, you're probably not going to hell.
Probably. That's the word, probably.
Yeah, because I don't know. Yeah, let's take the next one.
All right, you want a question? Here's the question. Atheist and myself, and I'm sure if I asked him, what would you change your mind? What would it take to change your mind about a God existing? He would say it would take this, that, and the other. I would say the same thing. Here's my evidence that I would need. Now, what would it take? Because what we're doing is we're showing you reasons that this God doesn't make sense. So, and you're defending it, and when you get to a point where you can't defend it, you just say, well, I don't know. So what would it actually take for you to say, well, okay, maybe this God doesn't exist? What would you need to see? Because that's what an open-minded person is, right? If you be able to have your mind changed. So what would it take?
Death. I would have to die and realize that there is no afterlife, or not realize it because there is none. So it's just one of those things that some people, like myself, we will die believing in something, even if it's, as you would say, not logical or doesn't make sense. I mean, if I'm being stubborn on this, then okay. I guess I'm being stubborn and closed-minded. And I don't think I'm being 100% closed-minded, because we've been at this conversation for a while now. So I don't know.
You admit you're closed-minded. You said it.
Okay. I mean, what do you want? Are you ready for that?
No,
This isn't a child's game. Yeah. I mean, I'm closed-minded in the sense of, like, your thoughts and your logic that are trying to peel back layers of me for me to not believe in God. Like, yeah, I'm
That's
going to
not what I'm
defend
trying to
myself.
do. I'm trying to get you to just think logically and critically, so you have the tools to make a good decision for yourself.
Okay.
You're the one that has to make the decision. I can't force you to believe something or not believe.
But okay, so if you're not trying to do that, then maybe stop this little interrogation.
I'm not interrogating. All I'm doing is pointing out your flaws and your logic.
That's fine. You can point out my flaws all day. I am well aware that I am very far from perfect. So if you think by pointing out my flaws, I'm going to stop being a man of faith, then you're wasting your time.
Well, then you lied to me when you said you think that believing as many true things as possible is the best way to live.
Okay, hold on one second. I'll be right back. I'm going to mute you for a minute.
So based on those two commandments, if I could do those two things, I could give my heart, my love, I think, I don't know which words to use, but to God, right? And could treat others well, then you should be able to have consensual sex and not have no issues, because it doesn't affect those two things.
Good point.
Well, no, it's accepting one part of the Bible but not accepting the other part. That's what that is. Because
you put out two criteria to get to heaven. One was believe in God, and one was to treat others the way you wanted to be treated. Am I wrong?
Yes, that is what I said.
Okay. Well, how does having sex outside of marriage violate any of those two?
According to the Bible, sexual immorality is a form of self-harm.
Okay, now it's the third criteria.
I never said there were only two criterias.
Well,
I said there were two most important criterias. I made that very clear.
Okay, so there's really like thousands of them.
Well, I mean, there's 10 commandments,
There's a
and
lot
then
more commandments in the Bible, though, right? Like
there's
300 or something,
well
400.
there's 10 commandments, and then there's a whole bunch of things that are sins, and there's a whole bunch of things to live by. So yeah, there are thousands of ways to follow the Bible, and there are thousands of ways to not follow the Bible.
So, to me, that would just lead me to insanity, worrying about every little detail of what I do, if it's a sin or not, if I'm going to end up in hell. How is that a good life?
I don't see it as insanity. To me, it's just thoughtful.
If you're
I
worried
think
about
before
every
I say
sin that you
things.
do, I don't know. To me, it's like it's a nightmare to me. How could you live a good life when you're constantly worried about, oh, gee, did I break this commandment? Did I break this rule? Am I sinning now? Oh, no. I mean, and most people don't even know half the Bible anyway. They're doing sins they don't even know about. I love it when people have tattoos with Jesus, and then the Bible says you shouldn't have tattoos because it's a sin. I mean,
so I
it's
mean,
insanity.
you're talking about something that we already went over, is that no one's perfect.
I know, but if they're ignorant of the rules, is that criteria to go to hell?
It's a good question. I mean, I don't really know the answer right now. I mean, there's things about the Bible that I'm never going to understand. Like, when I read the Bible, there's a lot of it that I'm just like, that doesn't make any sense to me. So I just keep reading. So it's like a lifelong process of trying to understand.
So you do use critical thinking if it doesn't make sense to you.
Of course. You said that at the beginning of our conversation, and then you recanted it and said that I don't use critical thinking.
When it comes to belief, you don't.
Certain things I don't.
Yeah, I don't know why you would put critical thinking off to the side just so you can believe what you want.
Look, man, I don't know you, but I would bet that you don't use thinking with everything in your own life.
But everything I believe is based on evidence. Everything. I won't believe something unless I can prove it. Because I care about what the truth is. I don't use faith for anything.
Well, I know that's the whole point of being an atheist.
I should hope so.
Yeah, I mean,
you actually agreed that was a good way to live your life, knowing as many true things as possible. And since everything I believe is based on evidence, then I'm more close to the truth than you are.
I guess we'll find out when we die.
You don't have to die to find out, because you did not exist 100 years ago, and you won't exist 100 years from now. They're both the same. What's the difference? Not existing is not existing.
My body won't be here.
You won't exist at all.
Prove that to me.
Because based on the past where you did not exist, that's the whole definition of being dead. When you're dead, you do not exist.
I mean, to me, it sounds like you know a lot about death.
We all do. We've all been there. No, none of us existed 100 years ago.
Okay, let me take this message.
Well, that's what closed-minded means. Just you could talk about something, but if you're not willing to change your mind, that's the definition of closed-minded. I'm closed-minded to you could talk to your face till it falls off. That also being said, so you were asking, like, what's the bad part of, atheist was saying, what's the bad thing about people just believing? Well, you're talking about yourself, but other people then, if that's the criteria that you can believe in things and have no evidence, if we don't have any standards as to what we're going to believe as true or not true, then how can we tell somebody who flies planes into the Empire State Building that they're wrong, or the Twin Towers, because they're using the same truth criteria as you are. They're just coming up to a different truth.
Was there a question in there?
Yeah, he wants to know your standards. I mean, again, using faith is dangerous, and he's pointing that out.
So he's using an example of people flying airplanes into buildings.
Yeah, because they had faith in what they were doing. And they had faith in God that they're going to end up in some kind of heaven with virgins.
Okay, well, that's not my religion, so I don't know.
No, I know, but I'm talking in general, when you believe something on faith, that's what it can lead to.
Okay. Are you worried that I'm going to do that?
I don't know. I don't know you. I don't know how far you would go with it. I don't know. I'm just saying it's possible because that's what it can lead to.
I mean, this is kind of extreme. We're just having a conversation here about, this started just asking atheists on this app, Stereo, and now
if you're uncomfortable, you can leave. I'm not trying to, all I'm saying is what faith is, what people who use faith, what they end up doing with it. And it can get to be pretty bad. I'm not saying you personally would do something like that, but when you're promoting believing things on faith, then other people use faith differently and to extremes.
Okay.
And so I'm saying the world would be a better place if people just didn't use faith at all.
So what would make the world a better place then?
Believing in things that are true.
So
based on evidence.
Look, okay, so tell me, how does this help the situation of the Twin Tower incident, 9/11?
If they didn't have faith in God, if they didn't have faith in their religion, if they didn't have faith in their heaven, their version of it, they would have never done that.
How do you know that?
Because any sane person would not kill themselves and other people unless they believed that they were going to have a good outcome.
Do you know Jeffrey Dahmer?
Yeah.
Was he a man of faith?
I don't know, really.
Do you know Ted Bundy?
Don't know him, no.
He killed like 60 women. Was he a man of faith?
He was a man that lacked empathy for others. That's why you have evil people.
Okay, so let's unpack that a little bit. Let's unpack that a little bit.
Okay.
He didn't believe in God.
And he didn't believe in empathy either. He had no empathy for his victims.
Now, I'm not saying empathy's bad.
I know, but
here's the picture you're painting.
It's not what he's doing was, again, a lack of empathy. It had nothing to do with faith.
You're painting a picture. You're so focused on all the bad things that come out of faith.
Yeah, because that's what's harmful.
But you're not focused on all the good things that come out of faith.
Let me ask you this: if I lived a perfect life, almost perfect, like I gave to charity, I always treated people right, blah blah blah, I did everything good and beautiful and whatnot, and then one day I raped somebody, and then they bring me to court, what would they focus on?
The rape.
Yeah, not all the good things I did.
Okay, because you broke the law and that's their job.
Well, when you do something bad or when something bad is written in the Bible or whatever, I focus on that.
So now it makes sense to me.
Good.
As an atheist, it's your job to point out all the bad things about religion.
Yeah, because I'm concerned. I want the world better.
That seems like pessimism to me.
No, what I'm trying to do.
It seems like trolling.
No, it's not. Oh, really? Now you're going to call it trolling. That's interesting. No, I'm trying to make the world a better place. That's not trolling, and that's not pessimism.
So what is it? Are you the thought police?
It's actually no, but it's. All I'm doing is pointing out that the world could be better if you got rid of this faith thing. That's all.
That's where we have to agree to disagree.
I provided evidence for you why it's bad.
And this is where you have to stop coming at me.
Well, you're one of the people that promotes faith over logic and critical thinking.
Do you realize you're on a religious stereo right now, right?
I'm on an atheist stereo, actually.
Well, the hashtag says religion.
Well, yeah, but it also says ask an atheist.
Okay, so what, do you want someone to come here and not focus on the half that says religion?
They can, and then I'll point out why it's flawed.
And you've been doing a great job at that.
Thank you. But yet, you're still going to just be closed-minded and believe what you want to believe.
Listen, I'm not offended when you say that I'm closed-minded about my faith.
I know, because you really are closed-minded.
Okay, noted.
And that's nothing to be proud of.
I never said I was proud of it.
Well, you should be ashamed of it.
Oh, now you're the emotions police?
No, I'm just saying that's my opinion. If you don't like it, that's okay.
Okay, let's take the message.
Don't worry about the example. I'm talking about the criteria, as Atheist is explaining right now as I leave his comment. The problem is, if you're saying, I came to this conclusion that I believe in God, and we're showing you these reasons, we're asking you, or we're saying, here's the reasons why we don't, and there's no logical reason to believe in this, but you're just going to say, I believe in it because I have faith, then you can't say that there's no truth there. You're not searching for truth. And also, anybody else, you would say that the people who flew planes into buildings were bad. I'm assuming you would say they were bad. You would say killers and murderers are bad. But if they say, well, I just believe that this is the way it's supposed to be, and I'm a good person because that's what my book that I have at home says, how can you judge anyone as bad? You're giving examples of people who did bad things. It's not what we're talking about. We're talking about the criteria they're using when they use that criteria. Ted Bundy and Jeffrey Dahmer did things because they were evil. They didn't say, oh, I believe these were the right things because God told me this. It's a different example. All right, they just said, well, I felt like eating somebody. But we're talking about the people who actually do use faith, and how would you tell them that they're wrong because they're using the same criteria that you're using to come to their conclusions? You've had a conclusion that God, you've had some personal experience, and you said this is because of God. And so why is your method, when somebody else uses the same method to use it in an evil way, why is that bad? If we can't have any...
I never said your method is bad. So don't ask me why is it bad, because I never said it was bad.
Now, he's talking about the method that the terrorists use to slam into a building.
Listen, guys, all three of us agree that it's wrong what happened on 9/11. So why are we debating? And what are you guys
trying? They did it on faith.
What are you guys trying to get out of me right now? What is your goal tonight?
I just want you to acknowledge that using faith instead of logic and critical thinking might not be the best way to live your life.
And again, atheist, this is where we agree to disagree. So if you want to keep going in circles about this, you can waste your breath and I will sit here and listen.
No, I'm done because you're closed-minded. So no matter what I say, it's just a waste. So I want to thank you, though, for your time and for being honest for the most part. And hopefully you'll think about this and maybe actually consider what I said instead of just saying, I'm going to believe what I want to believe no matter what. But that's up to you.
here's what you did for me tonight. You strengthened my faith in God, because if I would have had this discussion years ago,
Mm-hmm.
I would have lost my temper. I would have hung up. I would have did this and that and the other thing.
That's just an emotion.
So you actually
You have more self-control now. Good for you.
you actually encouraged me to strengthen my faith in God tonight. And I thank you for that.
It has nothing to do with God. It has something to be, you're mature. You're an adult. You're able to, you have anger management, which is a fantastic virtue. But it has nothing to do with God.
Glory be to God for the way that both of us handled this tonight.
Uh-huh. Well, again, thanks for your time. And I don't know. I was going to follow you, but at this point, I think we said everything we need to say.
Hey, well, I'm always open for discussion as long as it's going somewhere productive, which for the most part, it did tonight.
Except for the ending, but all right. I really wish you a good night and a good life.
Thank you.